Welcome to Best Top 10 Ever. Today we're counting down the top 10 horror movies of all time, the ones that have terrified audiences and stood the test of time. If you love a good scare, make sure to subscribe for more spine-chilling top 10s. Let's dive into the darkness the horror genre has delivered iconic films that plunge us into fear and thrill. Each of these films pushed boundaries, leaving audiences with goosebumps and sometimes nightmares. From groundbreaking classics to modern masterpieces, here are the top 10 horror movies of all time, presented in reverse order to build up the suspense. 10. Hereditary, 2018. Hereditary, directed by Ari Aster, is a modern take on family tragedy combined with supernatural horror. The film follows the Graham family, who are haunted by a mysterious presence after the death of their reclusive grandmother. With disturbing visuals and unsettling performances, especially from Toni Collette, whose portrayal of a mother on the brink of madness is unforgettable. Hereditary dives deep into themes of grief, guilt, and inherited trauma. Aster's vision is terrifyingly unique, steering away from cheap scares in favor of slow-burning suspense that builds until an explosive and haunting climax. Hereditary is more than a horror film. It's an intense emotional experience that leaves a lasting impact. 9. The Exorcist, 1973. Often regarded as one of the scariest films ever made, The Exorcist, directed by William Friedkin, shocked audiences when it was released in the early 70s. Based on William Peter Blatty's novel, the film tells the story of a young girl named Regan, who becomes possessed by a malevolent spirit. The visuals were groundbreaking for the time, using practical effects to create unsettling scenes like Regan's head turning and levitating. The film's impact was so powerful that many theaters reportedly kept barf bags for squeamish viewers. Friedkin's direction, along with Linda Blair's performance, left an indelible mark on the horror genre, solidifying The Exorcist as a timeless classic that frightens audiences to this day. 8. A Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. Directed by Wes Craven, A Nightmare on Elm Street introduced audiences to Freddy Krueger, the scarred and demented figure who haunts people in their dreams. Freddy is a horrifying villain because he transcends physical reality, attacking his victims in their most vulnerable state while they sleep. Craven's creation of Krueger, with his razor-sharp glove and haunting voice, became an instant horror icon. The film blurred the line between dreams and reality, creating a sense of dread that made it difficult for audiences to feel safe, even in their own beds. A Nightmare on Elm Street reinvented the slasher genre, bringing a supernatural twist that has kept it a popular franchise for decades. 7. Halloween, 1978. John Carpenter's Halloween introduced Michael Myers, the silent, relentless killer with a white mask, who has since become an icon of horror. The film's low-budget production and minimalist approach made it all the more effective. With Carpenter's suspenseful score and careful use of shadows, Halloween maintains a sense of unease and tension throughout. Laurie Strode, played by Jamie Lee Curtis, became the final girl archetype, a character trope that would be emulated in countless horror films to come. Michael Myers' slow, deliberate movements and his near invincibility create an atmosphere of unstoppable terror. Carpenter's work on Halloween demonstrated that great horror doesn't require elaborate effects. Sometimes simplicity is what truly terrifies. 6. The Shining, 1980. Based on Stephen King's novel, Stanley Kubrick's The Shining is a psychological horror masterpiece. Jack Nicholson stars as Jack Torrance, a writer who loses his sanity while caretaking the isolated Overlook Hotel with his family. Kubrick's meticulous attention to detail and unsettling direction turned the hotel itself into a character, creating an atmosphere of dread and isolation. Nicholson's descent into madness, combined with the eerie, empty hallways of the Overlook, gives The Shining a disturbing sense of claustrophobia and suspense. The film's imagery, like the twins in the hallway and the blood-filled elevator, remains some of the most iconic in horror history. The Shining goes beyond typical horror, exploring themes of isolation, madness, and the supernatural in a way that keeps audiences guessing and disturbed. 5. Psycho, 1960. Directed by Alfred Hitchcock, Psycho changed the horror landscape, introducing audiences to a more psychological style of terror. The film follows Marion Crane, who checks into the eerie Bates Motel, only to meet a grisly end in the infamous shower scene. Anthony Perkins' portrayal of Norman Bates, the motel's strange owner with a deeply disturbing relationship with his mother, makes him one of horror's most complex villains. Hitchcock's direction, combined with Bernard Herrmann's screeching score, builds tension in every scene. Psycho was one of the first films to push the boundaries of violence and taboo subjects, paving the way for modern horror with its shocking twist and deeply unsettling atmosphere. 4. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. Tobe Hooper's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre brought a gritty, raw style to horror, following a group of friends who encounter a family of cannibals in rural Texas. The most terrifying of them all is Leatherface, a towering figure who wields a chainsaw and wears a mask made of human skin. The film's documentary-like feel and minimal use of gore make it even more disturbing, as it gives viewers a sense of realism that's difficult to shake. Hooper's low-budget masterpiece shocked audiences with its portrayal of relentless violence and depravity, making the Texas Chainsaw Massacre a cult classic that continues to horrify audiences with its uncompromising brutality. 3. Jaws, 1975. Steven Spielberg's Jaws made audiences afraid to go into the water. The story of a monstrous great white shark terrorizing a small beach town introduced new levels of suspense and fear to the genre. John Williams' iconic score builds tension before the shark is even seen, making every scene at sea feel fraught with danger. Spielberg's careful pacing and the decision to keep the shark hidden for much of the film make Jaws as much about anticipation as it is about actual terror. Jaws not only defined the summer blockbuster, but also created a deep-rooted fear of sharks, demonstrating the power of well-crafted suspense. 2. The Silence of the Lambs, 1991. Jonathan Demme's The Silence of the Lambs blends horror with psychological thriller elements, focusing on FBI trainee Clarice Starling and her interactions with Hannibal Lecter, a brilliant but deranged serial killer. Anthony Hopkins' portrayal of Lecter is both terrifying and magnetic, making him one of cinema's most iconic villains. Jodie Foster's performance as Clarice adds depth to the film, creating a compelling cat-and-mouse dynamic. With themes of manipulation, psychology, and suspense, The Silence of the Lambs goes beyond conventional horror, exploring the darker aspects of human nature. The film's success and its Oscar wins prove that horror could be both artistic and deeply disturbing. 1. The Conjuring, 2013. Directed by James Wan, The Conjuring follows paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren as they try to help the Perron family escape the hauntings in their new home. Based on true events, The Conjuring delivers scares through atmosphere rather than gore, using shadows, sounds, and clever cinematography to create tension. Wan's direction and the realistic performances make the story feel authentic, leaving viewers with a sense of unease long after the credits roll. The Conjuring was so successful that it launched an entire horror franchise, including films like Annabelle and The Nun. Wan's film set a new standard for horror in the 2010s, using traditional scare techniques to craft a deeply terrifying experience. These top 10 horror films each hold a unique place in horror history, influencing generations of filmmakers and haunting audiences across the world. Whether you're drawn to psychological terror, supernatural scares, or slasher thrills, these films showcase the power of horror to captivate, disturb, and thrill. They explore human fears in ways that linger in our minds, reminding us that sometimes it's not what we see, but what we imagine that truly terrifies us. Those were the top 10 horror movies of all time. If you enjoyed this list, hit subscribe for more thrilling content. Thanks for watching Best Top 10 Ever, and we'll see you in the next video.